Hey, Freedom Team. Welcome to week 7, I believe, of 5 levels. We're going to talk about the upsides and downsides of people development. And I have to tell you, in true confession form, I struggled when I was trying to hype myself up to get ready to learn all the things this week so then I could come and teach all the things. I thought to myself, I'm like, Brittany really should just do this one. She should just do these last two levels. She's great at both of them. She should just do them. She should just do them. And then I was like, Brittany, you should just do it. And she's like, no. And so anyways, I started reading and I messaged her back and I was like, what a relief. I'm not terrible at this. Like, I have some success with what he's saying. So just know, when we tell you at every single level, people got thoughts and feelings and emotions. It's true. And so you just have to deal with them. So here is what we learned last week. Basically that level 3 leaders tend to get really hype when production is up. They think, oh, this is where I should camp out. Because at the time, all of the addition, everybody's efforts rowing in one direction feels like massive momentum, right? Production, this is fun, this is exciting. But he warns that getting real comfortable at level 3 is going to prevent you from ever reaching your potential, as well as your people from ever reaching their potential. So basically the difference between level 3 and level 4 is the difference between adding to your team and multiplying your team. And if those of you have been in massive momentum, you will realize that the multiplication on your team, that is when the snowball is kind of going down the hill. Addition can happen, but you're still pushing that snowball, right? It's when the multiplication happens that that snowball is kind of taking off. You are all of a sudden reaping rewards and benefits for work that you're not even having to have a hand in at all times. That's typically when you begin to call your upline and say, why are they paying us so much money? This should be so much harder. Like, I don't understand. That is when you've got some things happening at level 4. So, question. Do you currently spend deliberate and peaceful time for thought in the course of your daily life? Why or why not? I'll ask it again. What?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, you do. Why, Brittany? Why do you do this?
Because there's so many things to think about. There's so many things that need thinking on. If I don't do that, I'm telling you, I would probably lose my mind. Like, I've got to have time to process and, I don't know, just think through things.
And
I don't know if it's necessary.
I can't tell you how many times, I'm not even kidding. When we tell you to ask leaders next week at convention what they're thinking and how they thought about problems, there have been so many times Brittany has said, I just have so much to think about. And I would be like, really? What do you think about? Because I am just not naturally that intuitive or curious. And so I have made it a habit of saying, what are you thinking? Like, when you sit down to think. So I say that to say there's no stupid question. I have asked her, when you sit down to think on your business, in your business, none of it really made any sense to me. What are we thinking about? And can we think about this together? Like, can we practice this thinking thing? So you should be asking people that. Who else? Do you currently spend deliberate and peaceful time for thought in your daily life?
I have recently started. I avoided thinking because it was emotions and I avoid emotions. And I've recently begun to really make myself sit down and think. And I have started with journaling, like writing down what I'm feeling and thinking, and then asking myself why and writing down that answer, and like going down 4 or 5 or 6 levels until I get to like, why am I feeling that way? And that was after our coaching, Christina, like a month and a half ago. I've been forcing myself to do that.
Yes, I had an effect. Right. Good, Gia. That's so good.
Can I add something to what she just said?
Okay.
Yeah, that is a really, really profitable habit. Just so you know, my coach even told me recently that if I were to take time to document everything, that in the future, like after I overcome the problems or I solve the issue or whatever, then I can speak directly to somebody else's problem and I can market to that person because I know exactly how they'll feel. Like it will help you in the future create really, really effective posts.
That's good.
I was gonna say something like that, Brittany. At 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, I have my thought time, my quiet time. And that does help me lead into what I'm gonna post first thing that morning.
That's good. I'll tell you guys, I have started this thinking practice a couple of different ways. I have a quiet time in the morning, and I have found that I cannot have a distraction available. I'm talking about, I can't even take my phone off the charger. You guys, y'all think I'm the most disciplined person? I'm telling you, if the phone gets off the charger and it happens to find its way into my living room, somehow it just ends up in the book of Proverbs, if that's what I'm studying, and I can't even figure out how it got there. So I can't even have it in my room. So I love how he pointed out deliberate and peaceful time. If you are distractible, which we do allow the distractions, then it is not, you're missing the mark. And then I also carve out, I think Michelle does the same thing at the beginning of the week, a large chunk of thinking time for the week. We're going to get into what do you think about during that time. That's what level 4 is about. So I adored where he said level 4 leaders invest time, energy, and thinking into growing others as leaders. They gauge every single person's potential. So question, how, and this is, I have an answer, but I want to know your answer first. How do you gauge someone's potential?
Their willingness to grow and their willingness to be coachable.
You must have read your chapter. Yes, he said you gauge their potential by their openness to the process. Their openness to the process. This is how so many times I get asked, how do I know if I'm dragging somebody? How do I know if I'm dragging somebody? It's based off of the level of their openness to the process. If you've been completely blatantly honest about what the process is going to look like and they're open to it still. I heard my husband do this on a job interview the other day. He was interviewing someone for a position that he was hiring for. And could hear him on the computer. And he was like, listen, I'm just gonna lay out for you exactly what these job details involve. And he listed all of the bad parts of the job first, all of them. I'm like, oh, It like involved working on a dish machine and some all the bad parts. And then when the guy said, yeah, I'm still interested, he was like, really? Tell me why. Because he just basically showed all of his hands. And the guy's openness to the process and his response to Brandon's question of like, okay, well, why are you open to that? I mean, it really, by the time the call was over, Brandon's like, I'm hiring that guy. I'm like, but why does he want to do that job? I don't ever want to do that job. But yeah, their openness to the process is when you're being very forthcoming with what it's going to take. And they're saying things like, yeah, like I'm willing to grow. They go and take action on what you tell them. They give you feedback on what they've learned. And then they're looking for the next best step. Okay. So what's the upside of people development? Number one, people development sets you apart from most leaders. Most leaders are going to be the ones who stay at level 3. That's going to be most people, because they've got to be willing to invest and develop themselves in order to be a leader who then develops leaders. Lots of leaders can develop workers. If you can get everyone rowing in the same direction and producing results, you become a level 3 leader. But in order for you to be able to develop someone into someone who could also get a group of people all together rowing in the same direction, that requires you elevating your leadership. So he says, we must believe in others, in their values, in their dreams. We must believe that they are worth the time and effort. Man, that makes it way more than just a 6 points in your back office. These are human beings with values and with dreams. So tell of a time when a leader believed in you, when they believed in your values or your dreams, and what kind of impact did that have on your life?
Well, if no one's going to go, I'll go again. I mean, honestly, you, April, and Brittany, from the minute I started, have poured into me, coached me, helped me, encouraged me, given me the hard truth, ask me the hard questions, and I would not be here otherwise.
I'll go. So I think it was my first sip and see at my mom's house. Deidre, she drove close to an hour to come. And at the very end of it all, I was just thanking her for coming, and she's like, well, you're worth it. And she just said so many beautiful things to me that I just wasn't expecting to hear, like with a business thing. You know, I thought she might say, well, you got a lot of people that signed up, but she was just like, no, you're worth it. Your dreams are worth it. And all these things. And that really made an impact on me.
That's so nice. That's so nice. Yeah. I have a leader that believes me. Matter of fact, I sent her a text today. Didn't even know it was going to be like a nice text, but I just said, hey, listen, thanks for, man, showing me the life I could create. I just had no idea. And that's not blowing smoke because it's Brittany. I just had no clue. I just thought I had reached the pinnacle of what I could reach, and I was going to be hella good at it. I was going to be a great educator for the next 30 years. I meant I would. I'd be a great mom. I would be the best. I knew all of those things. But for her seeing that there could be things different, I would have never dreamed. Not only that, y'all, but do you know I also would not have had Rhett? If Brittany had not casted vision for my life, I couldn't afford to take 12 more weeks off. I had no paid leave, obviously, because I took 12 weeks unpaid with Tegan, had no time to save, and we couldn't afford to put 2 kids in daycare. I mean, a teacher's budget is a teacher's budget. Most of the time people's lives are going to reach their means, and ours had done that. And we just didn't have $400 more a month to put someone in daycare. So baby Rhett would not even exist. And can anyone even imagine a world like that? No. So I say that to say you just have no clue what your willingness to follow up with someone for over a year, even when they ignore you and when they say there is no way, I'm not ever going to do this. Thanks, but no thanks. You just have no clue what kind of an impact you can have in their life. So who knows what Rhett's going to grow up and be in this world, or offspring that he'll have, or whatever, but you can have generational impact on someone because you're willing to follow up. And I'm telling y'all, I wish you could know how closed I was. I wish you could know. Do you know there was a time in my product journey where I decided Slim, I was like, okay, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to buy a couple week samples. I'll buy a week of Slim this month, and then I'll buy a week of Slim next month. Y'all, she never let that deter her. Even though she wasn't getting paid points for me, she never let it deter her. So I hope you have a list of people who you really believe in and who you are being diligent to follow up with every single month, every other month. If you don't have a list, just know you need one. You just don't know who needs you. Okay. Upside to people number 2. People development ensures that growth can be sustained. So here's what you have to know. You can create momentum. Okay. But in order to sustain the growth that we all enjoy, it's going to require you to develop people. It's going to require, your reach is only going to be so far. So if you're developing humans, what you're doing is you are magnifying the reach that you can have. So hold on. I refer to this. Okay. Here's what I want to know. In what ways? So he talks about transferring ownership. Like when you're developing people so that growth can be sustained, you've got to be willing to transfer ownership of some things, which some personality types really struggle with. But what are some tangible ways that you have seen ownership be transferred in this business? Or what are some ways that you are trying to transfer ownership to some of your up and coming leaders that the team could benefit from?
I had a eventful day today that was totally not on my very new to me time blocking. Totally threw a wrench and everything. And I have a leader that is doing really well, and I put my phone on silent and I sat it down because I had to get back on track. And I'm like, she will figure it out. I have full belief in her that when I'm not here to answer the question, she's going to do it, and she'll do it right. And she did. She had somebody sign up, 2 different people today. So they got her level 1 got their first 2 joins. And when I went back and listened to her voice text, I'm like, I would have 100% responded had I listened, because the mom and me just started like, oh, let me help her and fix her problems. But because I sat my phone down and I'm like, she can do it. She did it. They did it right. They fixed all this girl's issues. And then not only did she get that join, but she got another one. I just had to like defer and let her do it because she could take responsibility for it. And it was hard.
Mhm. But now she feels empowered. Now
And I
she-
told them both how unbelievably proud I was that they did it and they did it right. And they, like, y'all did all the right things and look how it turned out.
That's awesome. Rachel Griffin, the question was, in what ways can you transfer ownership to up and coming leaders in your business? So like Cecilia said, Michelle asked her to host a power hour. Absolutely. That is transferring ownership. That's saying, hey, I trust you. I trust your influence on our team. I know that you can execute this well. I know if someone has a question, you'll give it the best, your best. Can you please take this for me? And it gives her a chance to shine. Yep. That is absolutely one, Cecilia.
I'm just thinking teacher wise, like to with by, like in the beginning, Rachel did a chat party for me, then we did one together, and then I did one on my own, and now I'm doing it with my silver. So
Yep. Exactly.
Events, like we have that Y Plexus group, and Angela and I did the first few, and then last week Deborah knocked it out of the park, looked like a diamond. Tonight Marlene was on, looked like a diamond. It's really, really exciting and seeing these people shine.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Whenever I was first starting, I think it started with like events, like not being the only one who presents. And then it went to trainings, like noticing that somebody was doing something well and asking them to speak on it on our team call. But always, I think just having a spirit of collaboration versus control, or like if you're thinking I'm the leader, I'm the one at the top, I have to make all the decisions, then you probably are not going to be super collaborative. You probably will fall into the trap of thinking I have to do everything myself. But if you don't assume that you're the smartest one and that you have some really smart people to work with, then you are going to want to pick their brain. You're going to want their ideas. You're going to want their input, and you're going to want their strengths and gifts used in whatever you guys are doing together.
Yep. I think being collaborative is so important. It's really important. I think it requires a sense of maturity and a sense of humility to know that your answer should not always be the best answer. If you're the smartest kid in the class every single time, you're in the wrong class. You're in the wrong class. And oftentimes other people would not agree with your assessment of yourself. So it requires humility to know that other people have great ideas. Again, some personality types tend to have a tougher time with this, but your personality type can never be an excuse. You can learn how to be collaborative. You can learn. And sometimes it just requires this. Well, what do you think we should do? Sometimes I don't even offer an opinion because I know I can be slightly aggressive. And so I'll just say, hey, well, what do y'all think we need to do? And I will determine in my brain, one of them is going to have the best answer, and they're going to have it. And we're going to figure out which one it is. So, yeah, it just requires humility. We're going to talk about ego in a little bit. Okay. Upside number 3, people development empowers the leader to lead larger. I loved where he said at level 4, leaders get to engage in the most important leadership task. And when I read this, I was like, oh, he's about to tell us the magic secret. And then he said, taking time to think about what is most valuable. I'm like, God almighty, more thinking time. What are these people thinking about for real? But then I kept reading, and so I have answers. But he says basically leaders who don't think about how to empower others, how to share ownership with others, how to collaborate with others, how to push others to reach their potential, they become ineffective. They have no amount of time. They're constantly reactive, and they basically run around like a chicken with their heads cut off because they're spinning all the plates. I loved the spinning plate analogy. Anybody felt like that in their business before? When you're thinking, man, if somebody would just come hold this stick with this set of plates, but then people are offering to hold the sticks, but you won't let them hold the sticks because you think you've got to be the one to hold it. He said a leader with no time to think or reflect drowns in ineffectiveness, and things get old really, really quickly. He says reflection takes an experience and turns it into an insight. So for me, that meant like, oh, okay, this isn't like, there is an active component to thinking. Like I should be turning an experience into an insight. So therefore thinking now all of a sudden becomes action, and that feels better for me. Like, okay, what are we thinking about? Oh, I'm supposed to be trying to decide how this experience should shed light on the future in my business. What went well with that? What did not go well with that? What's my role in both parts? So I'm curious, now that we know that thinking is required, what is your plan to incorporate thinking time into your day if you have not done so already? How many of you have decided like, okay, thinking time is something I need, and this is what it could look like for me?
Okay, so I do not have thinking time.
Do you
What?
feel ineffective and running around crazy?
Well, yes.
I have a
So-
solution. I think we're supposed to think more.
Well, when you first said that and when I read it, I was like, yeah, but that means I have to block time out. Like I have to sit and block time out to do that. So, and I've never thought about my thinking. Like I've never just sat down and thought, like when you said, what would you think about? I had to sit here and make a list of what I would think about. Like, and I'm probably going to have to read this list every day in order to do this. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit and be like, all right, like, what am I doing? So I have a list, and I feel like it's something I should either do in the morning or at night. I don't know. I'll figure that out. But I'm gonna have to sit with a list of things that I need to think about.
So Brittany taught me when I was trying to ask her how to think. And I know y'all think I sound completely ridiculous, but I'm telling you, I meant I was going to figure out how to be a diamond, and I would ask any question. I have zero pride when it comes to asking questions. Our small group leader at church says the same thing because they're all experienced church people, and Brandon and I are not. And so we'll just ask the most. They'd be like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like I just assumed you knew that. And so let me back up, and then he'll give us some context that helps us. But sometimes people just don't know what you don't know. And so the first time I was like, Brittany, what am I supposed to think about? Like I carved out the time, and I'm thinking about the fact that I don't know what to think about. So she just said, well, she would say, okay, well, think about someone on your team. I'm like, think about April. Like, what do you think? If April could master this, she would move forward in her business. And then when you've come up with this, think, what is keeping her from mastering that? Like, have I modeled it? Have I explained it? Does she like, and so the thinking again becomes active, and it just becomes like a process of peeling back layers to get to some sort of a solution, and doing it proactively. When she gave me those pre-coaching questions, I'm telling you, I think my business changed for real, because I began to feel empowered with thinking, so that when I got on a call, I would know I would know the direction I already thought it needed to go. And it wouldn't be necessarily based off of emotions or current events. It would be based off of deep thinking. And it really made me value my leaders so much more. When you spend an hour thinking about someone, it really does make you treasure that person. Like it made me feel so invested. Like it was a long time to think about someone. And then I felt much more effective as a leader, because I had spent, why are you laughing? I don't understand. That's how I learned. I'm trying to tell y'all the secrets to how I learned. That's how I learned. I just practiced and was willing to feel utterly ridiculous about the whole thing. But I think my leaders would tell you I've made progress in this area. So
Can I say something to piggyback
Yes.
on that, Christina?
please, because I feel real awkward.
No, you were perfect. Like it was perfect. And I guess I just want to highlight this. I heard this at a homeschool conference, and for any of you, I don't know, Brittany, if you ever heard, or Cecilia heard, I think it was Andrew Kearns said this. He said, what is thinking? Thinking is the art of asking questions. And it's not like you just sit there waiting for something to pop into your mind. It's literally everything that Christina just said they were questions. If April could master this, what's preventing her from moving forward? Have I mastered this? So it's all those questions and going through the questions and then just learning the questions to ask. But it doesn't happen until you stay still to ask those questions. So like we always talk about, and we joke about Brittany asking questions all the time, but that's the thinking. It's thinking is the art of asking questions. So even in your example, Christina, that was perfection. And can you imagine what our business would look like if we did that question asking, not only for ourselves, but for everybody on our team? It would could revolutionize your business.
Yeah. If I had only known those first couple of years that I was making fun of exactly what was making Brittany so much money, I would have made fun of her questions less and asked them more. I used to pick on her hardcore. Had no clue the question asking was what was going to lead to her making so much money.
What
So
is
Brittany-
so funny is the part where you said it makes you feel so invested in somebody. It's such a long time to sit and think about somebody. But I mean, you're right. You are 100% right. It just never occurred to me until you said that just now, that that's what makes me feel so invested in. I mean, I definitely have always felt invested in my people. I just didn't realize that was why. And also it never occurred to me that other people weren't doing that. Honestly, I just thought it's just the thing to do. And it just didn't occur to me that it didn't occur to people.
Well,
So,
and yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna talk about real quick, like what different things that I'm always thinking about. But you can just say your thought and then I'll come back to that.
My thought is, well, you used to say like a coaching call is not just an hour of my time. Like I will think about the person for 30 minutes before a call. And then I will think about that person for an hour or two while I'm like cooking or bathing my kids, or like I'm still thinking, and I'd be like, what the heck is she thinking? I'd be like, oh, coaching call done, check, like on to the next thing. And so that's what got me, like that was a very clear difference in what you were doing versus what I was doing back before I ever started doing this. And then I'm like, okay, well, this is why her leaders are doing this and my leaders are doing this. And so here's how you know if your people are doing what Brittany assumed I was doing. When you ask them questions about their people and what they needed to move forward, and you get a lot of I don't knows. I don't knows usually mean I haven't thought about it. So if she had asked me 2 years ago, hey, what do you think April needs to move forward? I'd be like, I don't know, let me ask her, which is the worst answer ever, y'all. Listen, and they don't know what they need to move forward, or they would have it figured out. But now I could tell you, I mean, for each of my leaders, like, oh, this is what she's working on, this is what she's working on, etc. All right, next point. Go ahead, Britt.
That's so good. That also is funny that you said, I don't know, let me ask her. So different, you could be thinking about different things. Like if it's the beginning of the month, I'm usually thinking about, okay, how did last month go? And what needs to change this month? Like what needs to be different? Like I'll think about things for myself, but then I'll think the same thoughts for each one of my leaders. And so sometimes it's about goals and such. If it's like the beginning of a contest or any time in a contest, if I'm thinking about a contest prize or goal, I'm thinking, okay, I'm looking at all my leaders. What goal are they working toward? Okay, where's that going to land me if they all hit it? What can I do to support them and help them reach that goal? And then I'll just brainstorm just actions we can do to increase their credit levels or their points or whatever their rank they're going for. Or like if I know what their rank goals are and it's attached to a timeline, then I'm going to be thinking about, okay, what's the quickest way to get their points up? What can we do? What can I do? So I feel like there, and also after a coaching call, like Christina said, there's always problems to solve. Anytime somebody's in activity and they're working their business and growing, they're creating problems for themselves. And so in my mind, I'm just like brainstorming all of the time. Like how can I solve this problem? What training is needed? Who's the best person to train on that? And so I like there's so many things to think about all of the time. I feel like it never runs out. It's like laundry. As soon as you think all the thoughts, then there's more thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. And for a long time, I avoided thinking for that exact reason. I'd be like, Brittany, I can't live my life like a type 6. I don't understand. But I have found that thinking and asking good questions of yourself and of your team can grow your paycheck. He says in here quicker than anything else. That's the good news. So, all right. I know we're pushed on time. I don't ever have enough time. Upside number 4, people development provides great personal fulfillment. Here's what I love. He says, it's no secret that life's greatest satisfaction comes from giving to others. But imagine how this satisfaction multiplies. This makes my eyes almost sweat when I think about our team. And imagine how the satisfaction multiplies when you take the same group of people that you formed close relationships with at level 2 and began pouring into their leadership potential at level 4. This is often when we are closest to the people around us, our inner circle of friends. So when you're mastering level 2 leadership, which is the relationships, permission, when you're mastering that and you're investing in those relationships, and then you help them be productive at level 3, you help them get results, you help them succeed. And then at level 4, you unlock their potential. That is when you have secured yourself an inner circle for life. For life. You don't got to worry about the things that other people worry about, because that the deepness of the relationship by that point is solid. It is rock solid. This is why the inner circle is so important. It's why choosing who you're going to invest in is so important, but it's why you should be willing to make that investment. Understanding this is what makes me be willing to get out of my comfort zone at the level 2 and do things that would not normally come naturally to me in terms of relationships. It's why I do things like invite people to lunch or host them at my house or have get-togethers or whatever. I'll invest real hard at level 2, even though it makes me incredibly uncomfortable. Still makes me incredibly uncomfortable, because I understand a good solid relationship at level 2. I know I can get them results at level 3. I know without a shadow of a doubt, 3 is where I thrive. And if I can help them get results at level 3 on a foundation of a good relationship at level 2, and then if they're open to unlocking their potential and I'm willing to become better so I can help them get better, that is the greatest fulfillment. That is the greatest sense of personal fulfillment. So he says basically his inner circle fulfills him in 3 ways: the journey together, the return that he gets from those closest to him, and the relationship formed. So share of a time when you being willing to develop someone has led to great personal fulfillment that you did not expect. Sometimes you don't expect it because we're innately selfish, right? We think what we want the most is the spotlight, or it is the recognition. And I will tell you, level 4 leaders often sacrifice the spotlight. They sacrifice it for those that they have developed. And I had to message Brittany this too. Y'all listen, if you're learning things, you should have things to say to your upline. Brittany probably gets tired of me, but I messaged her this week and I'm like, hey, you do this. You do this. He says that level 4 leaders sacrifice the spotlight for the people that they have developed. And I've watched her do it. I watched her do it when I got to train on the stage in Mexico at Emerald Extravaganza last year. Half of, probably 3/4 of what I trained on, y'all, it was stuff I had learned directly from her mouth. I'm not even kidding. Half of what I train on at Jewel School, same thing. Now listen, I name drop like crazy, so folks know. But aside from that, she's not the one on the stage. She's not the one that at Jewel School they say, give a round of applause to your amazing Jewel trainers. And I'm over here like, if only they knew, like, Brittany. But she sacrificed the spotlight a million times. So level 4 leaders do that. But tell of a time when you found unexpected personal fulfillment because you were willing to develop someone at this level. Maybe this was a terrible question.
No, it's a good question. I'm like, how much time do you have? Because I've seen it on the upside of Britt and you investing in me. my people, my posse. But then on the downside with Angela and Leah and all these amazing people that are around me, like these people have become my sisters, right? And we work together, we do life together, we're talking about our kids together. And there's nothing like it. I mean, when I read, I actually took pictures of these pages and sent them to Brittany last night and to Nicole and Leah and Angela, because I'm like, this is us. I mean, I didn't say that, but I sent it to them. And there's nothing like it. There's just nothing like it. I don't even have the words to articulate what it means to me.
Guys, and don't you want to be that leader that people say these things about? It will come if you're willing to invest there. And sometimes it's going to take years and years and years. But listen, you're going to spend this time doing something anyway. You're going to spend this time doing something. All right.
I wanted to say what it means to have develop. What was the question one more again?
I don't know. It might have been a bad question.
No, it was a good question. I was trying to let other people answer before I jumped in. I definitely have an answer.
Okay. I was just saying, tell of a time when you found unexpected personal fulfillment because you had taken the time to invest someone. Maybe a time when you thought that you would have been the one that wanted the spotlight, but really someone else having it gave you even greater personal fulfillment than you thought it would.
Yeah. So that would be anytime I see one of my leaders on the stage. But I mean, when I started this, I knew I wanted to earn financial freedom, but I had no idea the rewards that would come personally in terms of leadership. So being able to impact people, that is definitely something I did not expect. Like I was thinking about earning a paycheck, and I knew I was going to have to, equip and train people to do it with me to be successful. But having an impact on their families, like that message you sent me this morning, I screenshotted it. I was going to ask you if I could put it in my stories, because that is like everything you said in that message, basically along the lines of, thank you for sharing this opportunity with me, because I'm on the way to the beach with my family. I have 5 hours to work in the car on the way there, doing something that I love. And my husband doesn't mind a bit because he's just as grateful for this life that Plexus has given us as I am. And it just made me tear up, because I'm thinking that is the vision I have for every person on our team. Like, we have this life that we've worked hard to build. It's been so worth it. And our families benefit exponentially, and anybody can do that. I know they can, because me and you are doing it. So really, truly, anybody can do this if we can. So I didn't expect all of that when I started this. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Yep. Man, that's good. All right. Well, now we've come to the downside part of the call. Unfortunately, it can't all be the upside. All right. So what is the downside of people development? Well, number one, self-centeredness can cause leaders to neglect people development for a lot of reasons. But here's what you must possess. And if you don't, you must grow to possess it: a level of maturity. Maturity, it just simply means that you can think beyond yourself and think from perspectives of others, that it can't always be your way or the highway. It comes a point when you've got to understand how someone sees something, why they potentially see it that way, and what if their perspective is actually the right perspective. You've got to be able to consider these things in all situations. Basically, you heard in the books where he said, his friend Gerald said, when you become a leader, you give up the right to think about yourself. Again, it's going to be opposite of what is deeply rooted in who we are as sinful creatures. But as a leader, you give up the right to think of yourself first. You must think about how every decision that you make impacts others, kind of as a parent too. Like no longer, when you decide to have a human being, no longer do you get to just think of what you want to do when you want to do it. You've got to always be considering, how does this look to other people? How will this affect other people? Because people will always do what they see, not necessarily what you say. So he says, if you want to lead at level 4, you must focus 80% of your time to developing other people. That means 20% of your time must be on working your own personal business. And there's a lot of things that I wish I could say. We don't have enough time, but I think discernment is super important at this level. If you spend 80% of your time developing people who are open to the process, remember, that's how we said we have to gauge their potential. And 20% of the time doing the activities that gave you people to invest in to begin with, you will be creating a very stable business for yourself. You'll be creating leaders and enriching them and developing them deeper and deeper and deeper. And you'll be bringing new leaders into the mix. So your business will be very deep. It will be very wide, and it will be very, very stable. Okay. What I want to know, how can we be intentional in the 20% of our time where we're supposed to be working our own individual business? Because what's going to happen is this, and I'll read the question again in a second. You know what's way more fun than the 20% of the time working your individual business? The 80% of your time working with the people that you've developed deep relationships with on level 2, who you've helped be productive at level 3, and who you now are pushing toward their potential on level 4. That feels way more fun. I mean, you're working with people who you love and who you've invested in. So what can we do to be intentional to make sure that that 80% does not grow into 90 or 100%? What are some things that you think we need to do to be effective here?
I think figuring out what the most important items are for your business, not wasting your time in areas that aren't as productive. So sitting down, auditing everything you do for your business and figuring out what you can keep, what you can delegate, what you can get rid of, and what you can like automate in your business. And then actually just focusing that 20% on the things that you physically have to do.
Yep.
I think it all also comes with your priorities. So if you know your priorities and when you're going to time block and how your day looks like, then you'll be able to figure out when your work time is plus when you're investing. And also thinking about when the people you're investing in, when their work time is too. So I have a lot of people who work during the day. And so do I. So I know during the day is not when I'm going to be able to connect or invest with them.
Yeah. I love how he made the point of 80% of the time being on helping people grow. Here's what he did not say. Hanging out and just, what's it called? No, you can't say that. What is it called if you're just kind of letting the breeze?
Socializing.
Yes, socializing. But there's some catchy
Shooting
thing
the breeze.
Thank you. Shooting the breeze. Where you're just, hanging out or chit chatting. Sometimes we like to think, well, because they're a leader on my team, then every conversation must I spent this time with Terry. This was an effective use of an hour. But if you think about it, okay, in what way did I help her grow during that hour? So just being intentional, because business time is still business time and it's got to be very effective there. Somebody said power hours to be intentional. Yeah. And it's going to require discipline during that 20% of the time, because those relationships that you've cultivated so well, they're going to need you. Remember, they're trying to reach their max potential. So they're going to need you, and you're going to be the one who has to put boundaries in place to protect that 20% of the time. Listen, and it's infuriating at times. I'll be like, Britt, I know you've got your phone right there. And she'll be like, 45 minutes later, hey, I'm sorry, I was writing a post. I'm like, well, I don't even need you now. I done solved that problem and 3 more. Thanks a lot. She's like, sorry, I was writing content. I'm like, oh. But it's really important. And every time she does that, what it does for me, it frees me to go do the same thing. For some reason, it's like, oh, okay. Oh, that's right. Okay. Sorry, Terry, I was writing content. I'm so sorry I missed your call, but now I have or whatever. So be intentional. I love when he said, the antidote to this self-centeredness, which would cause us to neglect developing others, is to ask yourself the question, who can I add value to today on my team? I think the way that Brittany has wrapped it up is what does someone on my team need today that I can provide? Like, what if they could figure this out, it would add value to the team, and then spend the time thinking about that thing. Anything to add there, Britt?
Well, just back to the question about how can you be intentional about that 20% of your time. I want to add one caveat to that. If you don't have people on your team who they want this as bad as you want this, you don't spend 80% of your time developing them. You don't. You spend 80% of your time finding people who are like that, first of all. And then the other thing is, when your team is in full momentum, let's just say you have developed some people, you've cast a vision, you put the work in, you got a team in momentum. It's so easy to neglect your own IPA. It's so easy to look at that 20% and think it's not that important because my business is already growing really, really fast. I'm just going to let my IPA slide. And like in Atomic Habits, he says, if you do it one day, it's not a big deal. You do it the second day, that's the beginning of a new habit. Okay. And then, so understand the results of what that looks like long term. If you continue on that path, that's just management mode is what it is. You can, if your team's in momentum and you're neglecting your own IPA, you're slipping into management mode. And that's not leadership. That's managing. Leading is leading by example. So you have to do both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I look back over our journey and I'm like, oh, this is why God let this happen. This is why we did this, so we could learn from it. Yes. Okay. Number 2 downside. Insecurity can make leaders feel threatened by people development. This right here, this next line I'm about to read, it's probably going to step on some toes. And listen, that's okay. You got to be aware of a problem in order to overcome it. He said, insecure people don't develop other people. They replace them. Meaning, if there's something that you're threatened about, like, okay, well, what if I develop this person and she takes the spotlight? Or what if they see her and don't realize, like, I'm a large part of it too. Like, I had a hand in that. Or what if, heaven forbid, what if so-and-so likes her better than me? Or what if corporate notices her? Or what if, they're not going to do the deep work needed to help somebody overcome the mindset hurdles that are normal in this business. So they will just on to the next. And again, what that creates is a very unstable business. Insecure leaders sabotage others, which in turn sabotages themselves. And I don't think it means like a mean, vindictive sabotage. I think that when a level 4 leader should dig in and help someone, they just will excuse themselves from that responsibility. So it'll be an unintentional sabotage. But when you unintentionally sabotage your team, guess what? You yourself become sabotaged. So he says, in order to get beyond the fear that someone's going to take their place, and sometimes you're not even aware of that fear, just so you know, like, you're going to have to spend time thinking about your motives and about your true feelings in this area. But to get beyond that, you've got to improve in a couple of areas. Number 1, ego. Good leaders at this level will have to realize that the best success is going to come with others. There is just no way around it. You're going to have to get right over yourself and decide that you're going to be better when peace with others. I think we can all agree we have weaknesses. And to me, the good news is someone else surely has to be strong in the area that I'm weak. And I understand how strength works. And if we can strengthen a weakness, then all of a sudden we're better. So you just got to put your ego aside. We got to be working on the area of control. I think it's a good idea to pause here often and realize that your role is to not control your people. It's not to get your way. It's not to beat them into obedience or stay on top of things. But your goal, this is so good, is to guide, energize, and excite. If you're working with people who are open to the process, remember, that's how we gauge their potential. and you're spending time thinking about how to guide. When it says excite, to me, it means cast vision. When you cast vision, when you can cast vision for somebody, they're going to feel excited, and energize them, empower them. To me, when I feel empowered, I feel energized, versus trying to just get them to get in line. That's when you're going to unlock their potential. Okay, trust. You got to get a grip on trust. Secure leaders see trust as the glue that keeps relationships together. So in what ways can we put some trust in our people? Like, what are some good ways to build trust with your people? It kind of goes hand in hand with shared ownership. When Brittany asked me to start stepping up in certain areas, the first thing she ever asked me to do, y'all, was a team call on BioCleanse. I don't know if that was like a test. Not sure how I passed. Worst call of all time. Okay. I don't know how to read any of those ingredients, and I'm not real sciencey, and it was terrible.
That is not the first thing I ever asked you to do, first of all. And secondly, I'm gonna blame Fallon for that.
Thank you. I mean, it might not have been the first, but it's what I remember. Gracious. And I had to have a partner to talk about BioCleanse. What the heck? But it did make me feel like she trusted me. And then in turn, I trusted her. I'm like, okay, well, surely she wouldn't set herself up for success, so I must be capable of this. So what are some things that we can do to build trust with our people?
Well, just what you said, hosting an event, or asking them if they would be willing to go live on the team page to add value, or like chats, like having a leaders chat and being like, add value in that chat. Like that shows you trust them.
I love that. Yes, connect.
Is the question show them that we trust them?
Either one. Which way can shared trust? Because he talks about the importance of both. It's important that here's how you get your people to trust you. Do what you freaking say you're going to do. Can you say freaking? Do what you say you're going to do. If you want your team to trust you, you've got to do what you got to be reliable. Like, you can be other things, but you got to be reliable. Your team has got to know that you're going to show up. And then if you want your leaders to trust you, you also be reliable. If you're entrusted with something, execute it to the best of your ability. Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead, Brett.
No, I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say in regards to that. If you want to build trust with your team, like if you want them to trust you, do what you say what you're going to do. Show up consistently. If you want them to know you trust them, I think, first of all, delegate responsibilities. And second of all, be vulnerable.
Oh, that's good. Yep. All right. Downside number 3. Oh, we got to fly. Short-sightedness can keep leaders from developing people. A leader's insecurity obviously can hamper the growth of everyone on the team. They may find it easier and less threatening to take on all the work themselves instead of developing team members for long-term success. I've said it multiple times on this book club. Sometimes what would have been easier for me, and really probably for Brittany, would have been to just give me the solutions. So many times I've called her with problems. She knew the dang answer. She could have just given it to me, and it would have been easier for both of us. But instead, it would turn into a hour long of, by the end of it, I realized it was her developing me. Like, oh, not only did I had to learn how to think about the situation, number one, because oftentimes my perspective would be flawed. So she was teaching me how to think about the situation and then teaching me how to think through the situation. So an insecure leader would not have done that. They would have put their hand in the pot, or sometimes even gone around and just handled it themselves, squashed the problem, whatever. But an insecure leader looks at another person and sees a threat. But a secure leader looks at a person and sees an asset. And what she was doing every single time she did that was looking at long-term picture, big picture vision. And that's what you've got to have with your people. If you don't do this, if you continue to just spin all the plates yourself, you're going to create an unstable business because your team is not going to feel competent. Why would they feel competent to go build this if they don't even, like, you don't even believe in them enough to execute smaller things. Why would they believe that they could go create something of this scale? All right, we got to fly. Downside number 4, a lack of commitment can keep leaders from doing the hard work. Y'all, it's work. It's emotional. It is time consuming. Sometimes it's even physical. I'm not even kidding. Sometimes I will physically like feel for my people. I grieve when they're grieving. I mean, so it's work. It is absolutely work. But it's what's going to be required if you want to be a leader who develops leaders and not a leader who has a ton of followers. What I want is to look out one day and have a team full of so many leaders, you can't really tell where one stops and the others begin. That's just what I want. And it's going to require time. Okay, so here's what I want to end with. Who can you choose from your team to go the distance with? This is a question for self-reflection. You don't have to necessarily answer out loud. You can answer the next part out loud. But who on your team? Who can you decide they're open to the process? They've got the potential. Like we've got a good foundation at level 2 leader. We've been productive at level 3. Like who can I choose to start thinking about this person? Like, okay, what does Andrea need to master to move forward? What does Hillary need? What does Jackie need to move forward? Who can I carve time out where I can reflect on this person and take what it is it shared ownership of this person's success? And I'm telling you, I'm so weird, but when you spend an hour thinking about someone and then you're able to go and communicate that with them, it builds a level of intimacy. Like it's just very rich. So who can you develop on your team? And if there is not someone, who can you become so that you can go create someone to develop? And then how do we start that process? Like what must change in your business as a result of what you've learned that's required of a level 4 leader? What must change? That should look like adding something new, stopping something, or totally altering something in your business currently so that you can apply what you've learned from level 4. Up and down sides. Anyone want to share what they need to stop, start, or change in their business? You don't have to share personal stuff like who it's going to be, but.
Doing too much for others, like not allowing them to build the confidence in themselves by doing it. Like ask better questions and guide them. But what you're saying about Brittany not giving you the answer, like she knew it, she just didn't give it to you. You've done that to me 100 times. I'm like, but that's not what I want to know. What I want to know is how do I fix it?
Yeah. Well, and I loved when he said in there, letting people know that you're okay with it being messy, with them making mistakes. When you go let someone do, they've got to have the freedom to mess up. They've got to know that that's acceptable and that's okay. Whitney, you need to start thinking more. I think I've said that so many times in my life. It's okay, Whitney. There's hope for us. There's hope for us.
Well, I was going to say that too about thinking more because, I mean, it's hard to think. It's hard to think about what you have to think about because I don't always know where to start.
I started with writing a person on a day. When April found out I had written her in my planner on a day, like this is my thing about April. And listen, she knew. She'd be like, you connected with me today. Like, and today your think day about me. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I really wish this could be more like spontaneous, but I have to be so intentional. And listen, she forgives me. So I started with writing a leader on every day. I know that's ridiculous, but tangible.
I mean, I think it's super smart. I think we need a list of questions to think about these people. That would be helpful. And then I also, and something I have been working on, but have to get better at is not giving an answer, but instead asking questions to help them figure out the answer, even though I know the answer. That's something I have been intentionally working on lately, and it's probably driving my girls insane, but I gotta get better.
They'll respect you for it eventually. All right. Well,
I
it's
think
9:01.
I would say I was just going to add real quick,
Sure.
like my thing that I need to, like, what do I need to become so I can find someone to develop is the person who's willing to have hard conversations.
Mm.
Stepping into that, having the belief in myself to be willing to have those conversations.
Ooh, that's good. Bob Heilig has a great podcast about that. So does Craig Rochelle. Bob's is really good. That's good, Jackie. All right. Well, next Thursday, we'll be at team dinner at convention. That'll be so super fun. So we won't have book club. And then I'll see you back the following for beliefs and behaviors of level 4 leaders. See y'all later. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Christina.
You're so welcome. Love y'all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.